Good evening, my fellow Americans. It is Monday, July 12th, 2021. I'd like to say good evening to all my viewers, those of you who I've not seen for the past 2 weeks. It has been somewhat bittersweet. I'd like to take this moment tonight before we do anything to pay a tribute to the former Haitian president by the name of Jovenel Moise, who just lost his life. We pay homage to you, we pay homage to your family, the great country of Haiti. It's unfortunate your life has to end this way. At the Robert DuVernay show, we do not have any party affiliation. Normally, I do not cover the Haitian politics for many reasons, but the last one has really caught my attention, and I'm sure it has caught so many people around the world. And for this heinous act, tonight, the Robert DuVernay show would like to send its condolences to all Haitians, all people across the world, regardless if you're Haitians. But this is a crime against humanity. May you rest in peace, Mr. President. Thank you. Well, on the top of the hour, I have announced it the past 2 weeks that we had last week off because of the Memorial holiday. And also, I wanted to, tonight is somewhat somber. I'm still trying to deal with the horrific crime that took place recently. It hasn't been easy to most people, and I, for one, it hasn't been easy as well. But I'm trying to cope with it, regardless of your party affiliation. Well, just so you know, Haiti has suffered a lot. I'd like to lay out the groundbreaking here, also a blueprint of what we'll be discussing this evening, which has to do strictly with Haiti. Tonight, this show is primarily dealing with the situation happening in Haiti, and at the same time bring some light to most of you who have left Haiti for at an early age, those of you who never visited, those of you who may have some Haitian roots, but never delve into it. Well, Haiti has been the first black republic to be independent on the face of the earth. When Haiti took their independence in 1803, which we'll be celebrating January 1st, 1804, this was not an easy acceptance on the part of the European, particularly the French. Napoleon was the commander of the French army. He suffered a great defeat. Napoleon Bonaparte really didn't see this coming, but this victory was won because of the resiliency of the Haitian people. The Haitian people, I should point it out to the world, that they are a resilient people. These are the people who went to a horrific deal. Yet, while the United States of America, who were allies of the French, they imposed an embargo on Haiti since day one. Now, here's a country who just gained its independence from the tyranny of the French. This did not sit too well. And what the Europeans, particularly the French, the British, the Americans, they wanted to make an example out of Haiti. And from the get-go, out of the gate, they made it known to all nations around the world, all those who are enslaved. If you ever thought about getting your independence, I want you to look at Haiti. That's exactly what they did. For so many years, all the nations have always viewed Haiti as the most poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. That's not true. That's a lie. And I'm going to say it again, it's a lie. Why is it a lie? It is simple. The fact that the United States, the Canadians, the French have always viewed Haiti as a threat because Haiti messed up the businesses. So therefore, the French had put in place measures that so Haiti can never grow. So during the years of this great man that with the author of the United States Constitution, Thomas Jefferson, he was a slave owner himself. Now, when you see things like that happening to your neighboring country, like Haiti, you're thinking about what's going to happen here. If Haiti could gain their independence from the French through a revolution, with the likes of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Toussaint Louverture, they are resilient people. What does that say to other nations? What does that say to the slaves that I have here in my possession? That right there was the blueprint for this embargo that you and I would know today. So whenever you hear that Haiti is a poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere, tell them they are lying. They don't know what they're talking about. They have impoverished Haiti. That's the word they should use. They have impoverished Haiti. They took all our resources. Unfortunately, every time we elect a president, every time we choose someone to lead our nations, there are those who find it so easily to ally with other nations, with other governments, just for the simple fact of their own benefits. That's the problem we have in Haiti. It's corruption. Now, let me go back to Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Jean-Jacques Dessalines was the first president of Haiti, and also he called himself, he was also the emperor from 1804 to 1806. He was assassinated on October 17th, 1806. He was only 48 years old. That's when it started. Because there's that fear. The CIA was not created overnight. They killed him. They killed him. I'm going to say it again. They killed our leader. And what happened when your leader is somewhat crucified, for lack of a better word, executed, the country is in chaos. So from the get-go, they had that plan in mind. So you have somewhat of some stability in Haiti in 1806, from 1804 to 1806, after we beat the crap out of the French. They would not accept that. So that was the first elected official that we have in Haiti who was assassinated. And the French, the United States, and the British, they all have their hands in Jean-Jacques Dessalines' blood. That was the first one. There's four of them. There's four executions that happened. So I'll give you the first one. Now, the second one was a gentleman named Lecomte. Lecomte. Haiti was going fine and dandy. There was order. The market was roaring. They won't tell you these things. But yet, every time you see a predominantly black nation aspire to greatness, that's right there is alarming. You know what they did? They burned down the palace. And also he was killed. They burned down the palace. That terrorism did not start yesterday. There's always been terrorists. That was an act of terrorists. He was killed. He was assassinated. That was Lecomte. That's our second president. was assassinated, not by the Haitians, but by foreigners, or what they call them these days, mercenaries. They were mercenaries. That's the second one. We're going to have a third execution. The third execution that we had was a President Villebois Guillaume Sam in 1915. Villebois Guillaume Sam was the president of Haiti, and somehow there was some dealing that he would not go for. So they couldn't get him. The people, they started a war within the people. I mean, the Haitians are very naive people. They're very naive. They somewhat manipulated them and let them turn against their own president. And Mr. Sam, Guillaume Sam, took refuge in the French embassy. French embassy, and that's something, the country that you kicked, your forefathers kicked the crap out of it. Now that's where you're gonna go for asylum. I should point out the French embassy always been at the same spot right there, Rue Capois in Port-au-Prince. I went to a school right next door to it. When I would be playing soccer, my ball will be playing. The ball I'll be playing will be following the French embassy. It can't jump to the fence, so it stayed there. I'll just give you a little, just bring you a little story as I'm thinking about it just now. When he took refuge in the French embassy, the Haitians managed and went to the French embassy and got him. They couldn't kill him on the French territory, so they brought him outside and executed him. That was the third assassination for a Haitian president. That in itself prompted the Americans to invade Haiti. 1915. This is when we're going to have our new constitution. Remember that I'm just giving you a little brief history. In 1915, Mr. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was not yet the U.S. president. He was in Congress. This man was the architect of the Haitian embassy, of the Haitian Constitution. Now, what does that tell you? Haiti, a sovereign country, would have someone of that Haitian origin, not even the parliament, but a foreigner who occupied the country to write its constitution. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a bright man, a brilliant man. I'm not taking anything away from him. But that tells you the hate, the passion. And they would occupy Haiti for 19 years. From 1915. For 19 years. Till 1934. This is the America that we're dealing with. So when I hear these folks, Haiti, and I hear a lot of religious leaders, and some of you think that Haiti is a demonic country because of voodoo, that's a lie. You give these people a break so they can live their life. You stay out of the business and you see what they can do. And then we easily fall for it. As a young man growing up, I was taught that we were possessed by demonics because nothing can work for us. All along, it was a superpower who's dealing with other people. And then the fact that they're so naive, they're so, I don't want to say the word, but they easily persuaded. They always want an easy way out. If I can feed off of these people, if they're giving me money, I'm going to fall for it. And then they fall for it. And that's what happened. That's the reason why we still have it. I'm not blaming Haiti on all these people by themselves, all these foreigners, all these superpower, but because they found agents within the country who's willing to participate in the mess. That's unacceptable. Now, they came to Haiti. They established themselves because you've been occupied. Haiti was occupied from 1915 for 19 years until 1934. So for 19 years, they settled themselves in there. They built an embassy. They brought the missionaries. They built a CIA. They know they had. That's what they needed. They didn't have to pay for it. So that's what happened. There was no dealing. And just this past week, on the night of July 6th to July 7th, another Haitian president was assassinated. That's our fourth one. Well, this one resonate. For 106 years, Haiti has some turmoil, but never a president has been assassinated for 106 years. But now, this is what we have in our hands. We invited foreign mercenaries to come in and kill our president. Now, there are those who said, Robert, where have you been for the past week that you have not said a word? But then normally I don't rush to conclusion until I get all the facts. Because oftentimes when we jump to conclusion, we say things that may be derogatory, that may not be in line, that may not be our core beliefs. But I wanted to be clear tonight that what's happening in Haiti is really the work of the superpower. And in concert with this house Negro we have in Haiti. They're despicable. But the Haitian people will rise up. They must rise up and take care of this for good. Regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of your political philosophy when it comes to the Haitian politics. What happened just last week was despicable. To a leader of a nation, the head of a nation, the father of a nation, shortly after Father's Day. That right there should be alarming to all Haitians, to all blacks around the world. If it could happen over there, it could easily happen here too. What I mean by here is that your nations, the black nations, that I set the record straight here. Now, there has been many reports that those in power, he had a lot of adversaries, but I'm going to show you tonight how much the U.S. is involved in what happened here. Just a little brief history. As you know, in 2010, January 12, 2010, Haiti has suffered its worst earthquake of magnitude of 7.1, which killed a number of 200,000 people. 200,000 Haitians were killed instantly. Yet, 2 months later, Chile had suffered an earthquake twice the magnitude of Haiti. 525 people were killed. See the difference here? 200,000, 525. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to merge economics with politics. There's an infrastructure in place. My Haitian leaders, if you're listening tonight, the lesson I have for you tonight is to be true to who you are. I'm hoping that we develop a sense of a people. What I mean a sense of a people is that if one Haitian is affected, I'm affected. If one Haitian is being viewed as lame or unacceptable, I'm being viewed as blame or unacceptable as well. That's what we need. In 2010, we had this horrific deal in Haiti. The former president named Préval which unfortunately died as to some old age issues. It was a year of election as well. And just to make it brief, we had 3 candidates who were in Haiti. The way it works, it's not like the United States. You have a primaries. They don't have 2 system parties like we have. Republican Party here, the Democratic Party here, and sometimes an independent party. But Haiti is not like this. You think you have a party, you can create a party overnight and call it whatever you want. So this is what we're dealing with in Haiti. So during this 2010 election, we have 3 leading candidates. They did not get the majority, so they have to go to a second round, to a runoff. So the leading candidate in that case was Maniga. She's a former wife of a former president of Haiti, Leslie Maniga. She's a professor, well versed. Should point that out. I love a woman who's well versed, that's for sure. So also we have another gentleman by the name of Jude Celestin, who was also part of these campaign, also running for president. He happened to be have some family ties with the former president. The sitting president at the time was René Préval, and also the person who comes third was Martelly. Now, Mrs. Manigat came out with 31.9% of the vote. Jude Celestin with 22.5%, and Martelly came back with 21.8%. Now I'm going to make a quick distinction here. Say very tight, all right? So the person who's really ahead by 10 points here, when we look at Mr. Martelly and Mrs. Manigat, we have a 10-point gap there from 31 to 21, and Mr. Jude Celestin with 22.5. That was in 2010 now. So there are 3 keys. I want you to pay attention with me tonight. I'm going to be very short. Those 3 dates, those 3 years, 2010, 2016, and 2021. All right? Stay here with me so you have another understanding of what Haiti is and the resources that we have and what brought us to where we are today. So, none of them won the majority. They're going to the runoff. In 2010, Mrs. Hillary Clinton, I'm sure that's a name you're all familiar with, flew to Haiti and spoke with Mr. Préval. And they wanted to handpick someone to replace Préval. So logically, the gap between Mr. Jude Celestin and Mr. Michel Martelly was about 0.8%. Not even 1%, but 0.8%. Very tiny, tiny, tiny. Now, if you would assume if Mr. Celestin is at 22.5 and Mr. Martelly is at 21.8, who most likely would have to lead? My audience. I know you guys are smart. 22.5, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, and 21.8. So there's only 2 individuals who can run for the election. So you would automatically kick off the ladder. But that was not the case. Mrs. Clinton asked that, it's reported, I'm not making it up, that Mr. Jude Celestin, the guy was qualified, a career politician, well versed again. I mean, it would be a nice debate to see those 2 going at it, Mrs. Leslie Manigat and Mr. Celestin. But guess what? They asked for Mr. Celestin to be out. So that was 2010. So the elections left between Mr. Martelly at 21.8 to Mrs. Manigat at 31.9, 10 points gap. So now, if you follow Haitian politics, you would know at the end who won that election. It was not Mrs. Manigat. It was, of course, Mr. Martelly. Now, Mr. Martelly, no offense offended here, no pun intended. he had no background in politics. He has no background in politics. That reminded me of someone recently that we have in the United States. The guy was a musician. He's a good musician. When this guy is throwing a party, boy, you better be there early, otherwise you're out of gas. So at the end of the day, and as you know, and the funny thing is, our elections, they're not tabulated in Haiti. They tabulated in Canada. Remember I told you from the get-go, who are the people who control Haiti? The US, the French, and the Canadian. Guess where the vote were counted, or tabulated for that matter? Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. They went there, and you know what happened. So Mr. Martelly was elected president of Haiti. This is what we deal with. So this is a man with no experience in politics. He got elected with the help of the United States. Now, United States wouldn't, if they have interest somewhere, the Clinton, they have interest. I mean, remember there's that Petro-Caribe funds that the Venezuelan issued and to the Haitians, and just so they can bring down the gas, because Haiti consume about 42 million gallons of gas a year. So think about it. The Venezuelan felt like, well, Haiti's been there for us in the past. Let me help Haiti. So I think that was a great gesture on the part, and the government somehow funneled this money. What happened with it, we don't know. And until today, no one knows. L'enquête se poursuit. So, Mr. Martelly served his term until 2016. And while he's in office, he created a party. Imagine, so the guy did not have a party prior of his going to election. That tells you how plain that is, how stupid that is. You did not have a party prior entering yourself, entering your neck in the race, yet while you're in office, you create a political party by the name of PHTK, okay? PHTK, which translated in Creole, say is a Parti Haïtien Tête Calée. Okay, technically it's a Haitian Haitian party of bald head, because he bald his head, okay? So isn't that a joke? PHTK, Parti Haïtien Tête Calée. All right? So this party itself, he created while in office. The dealing he had, and then when he left office, the minute that he left office, the Haitian Senate immediately, well, before I jump to that, I should point out that he, Mr. Martelly, with his influence, of course, handpicked his successor. He blessed Mr. Moise Jovenel. That's how we got to know Mr. This is how Mr. Moise Jovenel will come into play. Mr. Moise Jovenel, Jovenel Moise, the former president, was an entrepreneur. He into the banana business. He's a well versed when it comes to bananas. He exported a lot of bananas around the world, and his business was doing extremely well. So that in itself qualified him to be president of Haiti, and that's something. So Mr. Martelly handpicked him, and he belonged. He become part of that PHTK. As you can see, he's bald-headed too. He's bald-headed. So in other words, if you're going to be part of this party, you got to be bald-headed, okay? So that's the whole idea. So it's a little joke there, but then again, this is how it is. So Mr. Martelly was bald, so we're going to be part of the party. You have to be bald. So now, Mr. Jovenel Moise, now after the election of 2016, he was supposed to swear on February 7th, 2016. But now there was tension in Haiti. They thought the vote was rigged. Just like Trump would say, the system is rigged, which was rigged in the case of Haiti. And that right there dragged out until the following year, So I want you to keep that in mind now. So remember that we're talking about 2010, 2016. I'm going somewhere with you here. Now in 2016, Mr. Moise did not assume the presidency because there were too much going on. He could not ascend. But then in the meantime, the Haitian Senate was made up of 30 senators. They came out with a report, about 600 pages, talking about the Petro-Caribe, which they believe that Mr. Martelly have fondled, lack of better words, stole $2 billion. And they wanted to have an investigation into that money. Now, he's the guy who's coming in right now as the president of Haiti. His boss, technically, Martelly, was his boss, was Martelly, handpicked him, in other words, anointed him to assume that presidency, and somehow U.S. was involved. How did it get to the election? No one knows. And I should point out that during the 2016 election, 18% of the Haitian population participated in that election. So that tells you that the Haitian people were fed up. That's why I wanted to connect the politics and the economics. During the Michel Martelly, nothing happened in Haiti. The promise they made, nothing get done. So the folks, they lost interest. See, the way politics and the economics, they work hand in hand. So in other words, if the economy is tanking, and I hear promises, nobody would have interest. Why would I even bother to go and vote? So regardless what I do, it's not going to change anything. So why bother vote? That's the economics aspect. Now the politics aspect, now when these people get elected, they do things for their friends. They enrich themselves. See? So those two worked hand in hand, economics and politics. The politician, when they get there, the contract they're signing. And it's funny, before even Mr. Moise got in there, the guy was not a cent, be honest with you. As he's an entrepreneur, and there was a contract for 60 solar panel, which would eventually call about $65,000. His company charged $160,000. It's not a lot of money, but then again, look at the disparity here. And a country as Haiti could not afford this. From the get-go, he started wrong. Now, he started in 2017. So he sworn in February 7th, 2017, a year later. Now, the term for presidents in Haiti, I should point out, is 5 years. The Haitian Constitution would allow you that after the fall of the Duvalier, that you can only serve one term at a time. So you could do 2 terms, but they would not be consecutive. They have to be, there's got to be a break in between. Let's say if you won in 2016, so you can come back, let's say 2021. So 2016, you're done. So you stop there. So you're coming back 5 plus 21 is 26. 2026, you can come back again. So 2016, so technically every 10 years. So you can do it every 10 years, you can come back, but for 2 terms only. Mr. Martelly's idea was that let's have President Jovenel do his term for 5 years, and I can come back and take care of business. Okay, whatever business he started. So that's what happened. That's the Haitian politics. It's unfortunate. Now, Mr. Jovenel Moise, as you all know, his term was technically ended February 7th of this year, 2021. But he said, well, I did not swear in until February 7th, 2017. So looking at 5 plus 7, I'm looking at 22. So my term would technically end in February 7th, 2022. That's the reason why toward his last year, that year from 20, as you can see, he got very smart. Toward the end of the year, then he got rid of the Senate, he got rid of Parliament, and just so he could lead the country by decree, because nothing was getting done. But this is what happened. Now, Mr. Jovenel somehow was not playing ball with the U.S. That's why he got canned. It's that simple. Now, the Haitian Police Department, they are as guilty as the guy who pulled the triggers. I want to know how this road that leads to the president residency. There's only one way up, one way down. If anybody going up there, they must be ID'd. In other words, if I said I live up there, across the street from the president, I have to show my ID that I live there. And I have to be registered. Now, how come a group of mercenaries, of commandos, foreigners, would show up to the president's residency at this hour of the night? And when they contacted the head of the police department, he said they're clear to go. Really? But the last time I checked my residency, I don't do business at my residency. My residency is my sanctuary. I don't invite foreigners to come here. We meet at my office if we have business to take care of. That right there is number one. This will be the first guy that will be questioning. The chief police, named guy Leon Shaw. Now, it's funny they're bringing up all these names, all these guys. This, I know most Haitian, they're always crazy. They all call themselves doctors, Where they got the medical doctor from, I don't know. But the guy claimed he was a doctor, and then the poor guy, that guy would then have a plan to buy a mango. Okay? Doesn't have a plan, wouldn't know what to do. The guy, I looked him up, he filed bankruptcy twice. He claimed he was a doctor in Haiti. One time the guy was a businessman. I know Haitians are two T's. They do them all. I used to be one of them. Do it all. We do it all. But again, on a more serious note, that guy cannot put together this team and to assassinate the president. Now, hear me out. Unless, I know most politicians oftentimes are crazy. They have a couple of screws that are loose in there, and for the press or even the police, the Haitian police, to put this out there, to me, it's laughable. How in the world someone would actually do a coup, okay, kill the president, and then thinking that you're going to assume the presidency and you're supposed to be a civilian? This is not a military coup. What happened in Haiti on the 7th last week was a coup. It was a coup. Now, every coup that happened in Haiti, U.S. always know about it. But if we proclaim that we're a country of democracy, we believe in fair election, we cannot accept a coup happening right in our backyard. So they use all the techniques to achieve their goal. Well, my people, wake up. I think this is a teaching moment for all Haitians to not take everything at face value. Oftentimes, they think that we are ignorant, we don't know any better, but we are smart. We are brilliant. But guess what? We need to outsmart our counterparts. That's what we need to do. Haiti is ours. Because to me, every time something of this magnitude, something terrible happens, it's a unique opportunity for greatness to flourish. My prayer is that my Haitian counterparts will come to their senses and make the best of what's left. Haiti was once known as the La Perle des Antilles, the pearls of the Caribbean. This is the beauty that we have. We are rich. I cannot say it any louder. Let's tap into our resources. Let's see each other as brothers. Let's see each other as a people. When we see one another as a people, and this is in quotation, as a people. In other words, we feel the same thing. We have the same aspiration. We see Haiti. This is what we have in common. That's the beauty of America. If we can take a page out of America, it's that when everything goes well in America, it goes well for the Americans. That's what we need. That's what we must achieve. That's what we need in Haiti. That's what matters. That's what I pray for. Now, if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to take a question. But again, I thought it was very important that I lay this out to you. And I'm sure most of you are going through an ordeal through this difficult time. We're all going through it. I pray for strength. I pray for understanding. And I pray for compassion for every Haitian all across the world. Thank you. If you don't have any questions, I will close the show. And I'll be more than happy to answer questions. If you don't have any questions, that'll be it for tonight. Again, I pray that you keep Haiti in your prayers and then help one another. Let's see Haiti as me, as you. That's when the best of Haiti will come out. My fellow Americans, it was a pleasure. Until we meet again next time.